The forbidden signal. The discovery. Captain Zarthok of the Krellian Empire stared at the holographic display with all four of his eyes. The signal was weak, almost hidden beneath layers of cosmic noise, but it was there. A transmission coming from the dark zone, the region of space that every civilized species had agreed to avoid for the past 3,000 years. "Are you certain this is accurate?" Zarthok asked his communications officer. Officer Prilna checked her instruments again, her tentacles moving rapidly across the control panels. "Yes, Captain. The signal is definitely coming from inside the restricted area. It's repeating every 12 minutes. The bridge of the Imperial cruiser Dominator fell silent. Everyone knew the stories about the Dark Zone. It was where the ancients had fought their last war. It was where entire fleets had vanished without a trace. It was where the Council of Species had placed the most serious warning beacons in galactic history. But that was 3,000 years ago. Surely whatever danger had existed then was long gone. The Empire had grown powerful. Their ships were the finest in known space. Their weapons could crack planets. What could possibly threaten them now? The temptation. Zarthok was not a captain who became famous by following rules. He had risen through the ranks by taking risks, by finding opportunities where others saw only danger. And this signal represented the greatest opportunity of his career. "What type of signal is it?" he asked. Prilna worked her controls. "It appears to be a distress beacon, Captain. Very old technology, but still functional. The message is simple, coordinates and a request for help." A distress beacon. That meant survivors. And survivors meant salvage rights, technology, perhaps even territorial claims. The Empire rewarded captains who brought home such prizes. Zarthok could see his future transforming before his eyes, promotions, wealth, perhaps even a seat on the Imperial Council. "Captain," his first officer spoke up. The elderly Krellian's voice carried warning. "The Council treaties are very clear. Entry into the Dark Zone is forbidden. The penalties are severe." "The penalties are for those who get caught," Zarthok replied. "We will make a quick reconnaissance. In and out before anyone notices we're gone. If we find something valuable, we claim it for the Empire. If not, we leave and no one is the wiser." The first officer's skin turned a pale shade of concern, but he said nothing more. Zarthok was the captain. His word was law aboard this ship. Crossing the line. The Dominator approached the boundary of the Dark Zone slowly. The warning beacons were still there, thousands of them, forming a wall across space. Each beacon broadcast the same message in every known language. "Stop. You are approaching protected space. Entry is forbidden. This is your final warning." Zarthok had heard that message 100 times in training simulations. Every child in civilized space learned about the Dark Zone and its warnings. But now, sitting in his command chair, he found the message almost laughable. Protected by whom? Forbidden by what authority? The beacons were ancient relics, nothing more. "Take us through," he ordered. The ship moved forward. They crossed the invisible line marked by the beacons. For a moment, nothing happened. The crew held their breath, waiting for something terrible to occur. But the stars continued shining. The engines continued humming. Space remained empty and silent. "See?" Zarthok laughed. 3,000 years of fear over nothing. Continue on course to the signal source. The empty system. They traveled deeper into the Dark Zone. The signal grew stronger, leading them to a solar system with 7 planets. According to their sensors, the third planet had once supported life. Cities covered its surface, though now they lay in ruins. The distress beacon was coming from a facility on the largest continent. "Scan for any active defenses," Zarthok commanded. "Negative, Captain. No active weapons systems detected. No power signatures except for the beacon itself. The planet appears completely dead." "Perfect." Zarthok ordered the ship into orbit. He would lead a landing party himself. This discovery would make him a legend. 50 warriors accompanied him to the surface. They wore full combat armor and carried the Empire's best weapons. If there were any survivors down there, they would be no match for Krellian military might. The landing site was a massive complex built into a mountainside. The architecture was strange, different from anything in the galactic databases. The doors stood open, as if inviting them inside. "Spread out," Zarthok ordered. "Search every room. I want everything of value catalogued and prepared for transport." The warriors moved through the facility. It was enormous, far larger than it had appeared from orbit. Corridors stretched for kilometers. Rooms the size of starship hangars stood empty. And everywhere, there were signs of incredible technology. Power conduits that still glowed faintly after millennia. Control panels made of materials their scanners couldn't identify. Weapons mounted on walls that seemed to be waiting for someone to pick them up. The message. In the central chamber, they found what they were looking for. A holographic projector sat on a raised platform. The distress beacon was beside it, still transmitting its simple message to the empty stars. "Activate the projector," Zarthok commanded. A technician worked the controls. The device came to life immediately, as if it had been waiting all this time for someone to arrive. A figure appeared in the air above the platform. It was humanoid, but clearly not any species Zarthok recognized. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head with 2 eyes. Soft skin with no scales or chitin. Small and seemingly fragile. The figure wore a simple uniform with an insignia that meant nothing to the Krellians. When it spoke, the translator took a moment to process the ancient language. Then the words came through clearly. "If you are seeing this message, then you have ignored our warnings. You have entered human space without permission. You have disregarded the treaties that were put in place for your protection, not ours." The figure paused, and something in its expression made Zarthok feel cold despite his armor's climate controls. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors witnessed what humanity is capable of when threatened. They saw us defend our worlds against an empire that believed itself unstoppable. They watched as we ended that empire in a single day. And they begged us to isolate ourselves, to give the galaxy time to forget what we could do. Another pause. The figure's eyes seemed to look directly at Zarthok. "We agreed. We withdrew to our territory. We placed the warning beacons. We gave you 3,000 years of peace to develop and grow. All we asked was that you respect our boundaries." The hologram's expression hardened. "You have chosen not to respect those boundaries. You have chosen to ignore our warnings. Very well. We will remind you why those warnings exist." The image flickered and changed. Now it showed space above the planet. And in that space, shapes began to appear. Ships. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They materialized out of nothing, surrounding the Dominator in a perfect sphere. "Run," the hologram said simply. "Run back to your people and tell them what you have seen. Tell them that humanity is awake again. Tell them that the dark zone is called dark for a reason. It is not the darkness of abandonment. It is the darkness of a predator waiting in the shadows." The projection ended. The chamber fell silent. Then, from his communications officer back on the ship, Zarthok heard a voice filled with terror. "Captain, we are surrounded. Thousands of contacts. They appeared from nowhere. They're not attacking, but they're not letting us move either. Captain, what do we do?" Zarthok stood frozen, staring at the place where the hologram had been. He had made the greatest mistake of his life. He had ignored the warnings. He had awakened something that should have remained asleep. And now he would have to face the consequences, the price of ignorance. The visitors. The human ships did not look like weapons of war. They were sleek and elegant, more like works of art than instruments of destruction. But Zarthok could feel the power radiating from them. His sensors reported energy readings that made no sense. Each vessel contained more firepower than his entire fleet. A transmission came through. Captain Zarthok of the Krellian Empire. This is Commander Saracen of the Terran Defense Network. You will power down your weapons and prepare to receive visitors. Resistance will be considered an act of war. Zarthok wanted to refuse. His pride demanded that he fight. But his survival instinct was stronger. Power down all weapons, he ordered. Prepare to receive guests. The human shuttle that docked with his ship was small and unarmed. Only 3 humans emerged, Commander Chen and 2 others who carried no visible weapons. They were all small compared to Krellians, barely reaching Zarthok's chest. But the way they moved, the way they carried themselves, spoke of absolute confidence. Commander Chen was a woman with dark hair and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She looked around the Krellian bridge with an expression that might have been disappointment or pity. Captain Zarthok, she said. Do you know what you have done? I responded to a distress call, Zarthok replied, trying to sound defiant. There is no crime in offering assistance. The distress call was a test, Chen said. We place them throughout our territory. They help us identify species who cannot follow simple instructions. Species who believe rules do not apply to them. She walked to the main view screen and gestured at the human fleet surrounding them. 3,000 years ago, the Krellian Empire of that time was one of 27 civilizations that united to conquer human space. You had the numbers. You had the territory. You believed you had the power. Chen turned back to face Zarthok. The war lasted 6 days. By the end, all 27 civilizations had surrendered unconditionally. We did not occupy your worlds. We did not take your territory. We simply asked for one thing, leave us alone. The truth revealed. That was 3,000 years ago, Zarthok said. Your people are gone. These ships are automated defenses, nothing more. Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Is that what you tell yourselves? That humanity disappeared? That we destroyed ourselves or evolved beyond physical form? She shook her head. We are still here, Captain. We have always been here. Watching. Waiting. Hoping you would learn. One of the other humans activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air, human worlds, dozens of them, hidden throughout the dark zone. Cities that gleamed with impossible beauty. Space stations the size of moons. Technology that made Krellian science look like children playing with sticks. While your empire fought its petty wars and conquered weaker species, we were building, Chen continued. While your leaders celebrated their power over others, we were learning. We mastered technologies you cannot imagine. We solved problems you do not even know exist. We became something greater than what we were. Then why hide? Zarthok demanded. Why not take your place as rulers of the galaxy? Because we learned the most important lesson, Chen replied. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. We saw what we had become during that war. We saw what we were capable of. And it terrified us more than any enemy ever could. She paused, her expression becoming sad. We realized that if we remained part of galactic civilization, we would inevitably dominate it. Not because we wanted to, but because that is what powerful species do. They expand. They control. They cannot help themselves. The judgment. So we made a choice, Chen continued. We would remove ourselves from the equation. We would give the galaxy space to grow, to develop, to make its own mistakes and learn its own lessons. All we asked was that you respect our boundaries. And yet you keep coming back, one of the other humans said. His voice carried anger. Every few centuries, some arrogant captain like you decides the warnings don't apply to them. They cross the line. They disturb our peace. They force us to respond. Zarthok felt his skin pale. What will you do to us? That depends on you, Chen replied. You have 3 choices. First, you can return to your people and tell them what you found here. Tell them that humanity is real, powerful, and watching. Tell them to enforce the boundaries more strictly. What is the second choice? You can stay. Abandon your empire and join us. Many have chosen this path. We welcome refugees from civilizations that consume themselves with greed and violence. You would never be able to contact your old life, but you would be free in ways you cannot currently imagine. Zarthok's mind raced. Leave everything behind? His career, his family, his entire culture? The thought was both terrifying and strangely tempting. And the third choice, he asked. Chen's expression hardened. You can choose to fight. You can attempt to escape with knowledge of our location and strength. Many have tried this. None have succeeded. We do not want to kill you, Captain, but we will protect our peace. We will preserve the isolation that keeps both us and you safe. The decision. Zarthok looked at his crew. He saw fear in their faces, but also something else. Curiosity. Wonder. They had spent their lives serving an empire that treated them as tools, as expendable resources in endless conquest. And now they were being offered something different. If I return to the empire and report this, Zarthok said slowly, what will happen? Your leaders will not believe you, Chen replied. They will think you are lying or insane. They may even execute you for entering the dark zone. But some will listen. Some will remember the old stories. And perhaps they will finally take the warning seriously. And if I stay? Then you and any of your crew who wish to join you will become citizens of Terran space. You will learn our ways. You will be challenged to grow beyond what you currently are. It will not be easy, but it will be real. Zarthok made his decision. I will return. My crew deserves the chance to choose for themselves, but they should make that choice with full knowledge. I will tell the Empire what I have seen. Perhaps they will listen. Perhaps not. But I will have tried. Chen nodded with what looked like respect. A wise choice. You are learning already. The return. The journey back to Krellian space was strange. The human ships escorted them to the boundary of the dark zone, then vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. As they crossed the warning beacons, Zarthok felt as if he was leaving a dream and returning to a nightmare. His first officer approached him. Captain, what will you tell the council? The truth, Zarthok replied. Everything. Let them decide what to do with it. They may not believe you. They may punish you for entering the dark zone. I know. But I cannot live with the alternative. I cannot pretend I did not see what I saw. Humanity gave us a gift 3,000 years ago. They gave us peace. And we have been too foolish to appreciate it. Zarthok looked at the warning beacons growing distant behind them. Perhaps it is time we started learning. The warning spreads. When Zarthok made his report to the Imperial Council, the reaction was exactly as Commander Chen had predicted. Some laughed. Some called him a liar. Some demanded his execution for violating treaty law. But some listened. Word spread across the galaxy. Rumors became stories. Stories became legends. And slowly, gradually, the Forbidden Zone became truly forbidden once again. Not because of fear alone, but because of respect. The humans had shown mercy. They had offered choices instead of death. They had proven that power and wisdom could coexist. And in doing so, they had taught the galaxy a lesson that would echo through the ages. The strongest beings are not those who conquer others, but those who conquer themselves. Zarthok never rose to the Imperial Council. His career ended the day he made his report. But in the years that followed, he noticed something changing. The Empire's endless wars began to slow. Talk of conquest gave way to discussion of cooperation. Young Krellians started questioning the old ways. Perhaps humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or their technology. Perhaps it was their example. They had shown that it was possible to be powerful without being cruel. To be advanced without being arrogant. To be separate without being hostile. And sometimes, late at night, Zarthok would look at the stars in the direction of the dark zone and wonder about the road not taken. Would he have been happy joining human civilization? Would his crew have thrived there? He would never know. But the fact that the choice had been offered, that mercy had been shown when destruction would have been easier, that meant something. That meant everything. The warning beacons continued broadcasting their message. And this time, people listened.